I recently faced something no parent should ever need to verbalize. 3 HOA enforcement officers appeared at my front door to remove my son, citing a breach of HOA custody regulations. Our neighbor was smirking as if she'd just rescued my child's life. Ironically, the only ones who ended up being removed were those officers in an ambulance. Let me begin at the start. Before we continue, tell me your location today. When your HOA dispatches 3 individuals wearing tactical equipment to discuss documentation, you're either residing in America's most aggressively controlled community, or you're about to experience a terrible morning. Take a guess which scenario I encountered. My coffee wasn't even finished brewing when the knocking started. 3 forceful strikes, palm flat hits, too aggressive to be friendly. This wasn't the type of knock you respond to while barefoot. It was the kind that made me long for the shotgun I used to keep near the entrance. I opened the door slowly. 3 men stood there, not postal workers, utility readers, or confused delivery personnel with a damaged package of disappointment. These individuals wore matte black tactical gear, reinforced footwear, and imitation communication devices attached to their shoulders, appearing official while avoiding legal violations. The only missing elements were fake facial hair and a placard reading, "Not police officers, please trust us." The tallest one stepped forward as if I was anticipating his arrival. He had closely cropped hair, wraparound dark glasses, and the arrogant assurance of someone who rehearses detention stances in front of mirrors. "Mr. Stratton," he announced, examining a clipboard as if it contained nuclear missile codes, "we're conducting a scheduled compliance inspection under HOA custody regulations." I blinked once without responding, studying him from head to toe as if determining whether this was a joke or an extremely misguided military-themed podcast production. The other 2 positioned themselves behind him, one stocky with crossed arms like an irritated club bouncer, the third young and lanky, clearly unsuited for tactical operations, constantly shifting as if something uncomfortable was stuck in his moral compass. They didn't appear nervous but rather prepared, overly prepared for a paperwork examination. "We've received a behavioral complaint regarding minor 742A under your supervision," the tall one continued. He avoided eye contact while speaking, looking past me into the house toward Jason's bedroom. I stepped forward and shut the door behind me, positioning myself between them and the entrance. "You just uttered numerous words," I informed him, none forming any legal coherence. He turned a page. "According to Article 4.7c, the HOA maintains authority to perform minor safety compliance assessments when a resident has been marked as high risk." He looked. "We're here to assess Jason's living situation." "Jason isn't office furniture," I replied. "Or he's certainly not subject to whatever database fantasy you're operating under." The stocky one tightened his crossed arms. The clipboard holder remained unmoved. "Non-compliance will be documented," he stated as if issuing a parking citation. Across the street, Karen stood by her flower garden, sipping from a stainless steel cup. She was dressed like a tennis instructor who'd abandoned the desire to exercise. Her gaze was fixed on us without blinking. She simply smiled, then waved and silently mouthed, "It's for the best." I wanted to destroy something. The young enforcer cleared his throat. "We can escalate through appropriate channels, but our suggestion was to begin with a non-intrusive method." "This is what you call non-intrusive?" I asked, stepping off the porch toward them. 3 individuals in tactical gear knocking on a veteran's door at dawn. "You consider that non-intrusive?" The buzzcut individual didn't move or blink. "Are you declining inspection?" he inquired. "I'm declining something," I said, still determining the proper term for it. He opened his mouth to speak again but hesitated. That's when he noticed my stance had changed, feet positioned shoulder-width apart, hands relaxed at my sides, head angled just enough to measure the distance between myself and the clipboard. He understood that one wrong move would result in me taking him down faster than he could utter compliance. The silence extended. Karen continued recording. My coffee grew cold behind the door. Finally, Buzzcut announced, "We'll document non-compliance and commence Phase 2. Thank you for your time." They turned and departed, not hurried or panicked, just methodical like they'd performed this routine before. I watched them reach their vehicle, an unmarked black SUV with tinted windows and no front license plate. Phase 2 lodged in my mind like a splinter. Behind me, I heard the floorboards creak. Jason stood barefoot in pajamas, positioned halfway down the stairs. He didn't ask what occurred, he simply looked at me with wide eyes and shallow breathing. He'd heard enough. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded without speaking. I walked outside and stood where the enforcers had been positioned. My foot struck something, a paper sheet folded once, lightly creased, deliberately left. I picked it up. Jason's name, a date, and 2 words stamped in red, Phase 2 approved. They arrived with smiles, a clipboard, and tactical equipment they barely knew how to operate. But now I understood something I hadn't before. They weren't bluffing. They were rehearsing. And next time, there wouldn't be a warning. The 4th citation appeared ducked, taped to our front door, not slipped into the mailbox or tucked under a welcome mat. Jason discovered it first, simply standing there staring until I approached and peeled it from the wood. Violation: visual disruption, front yard neglect. The offense: Jason's bicycle left on the lawn for 2 hours after school. Fine $75. Below that in pale gray ink, persistent visual disruption may activate compliance monitoring per Article 4.70c. I read that line twice, then once more. I didn't tear up the notice or curse, I simply folded it once, placed it on the counter and made coffee as if my hands weren't trembling. At breakfast, Jason picked at his cereal as if it had personally offended him. Sarah stared at the wall. No one spoke. Finally I asked, "Want me to drive you today?" Jason shrugged, then muttered, "Not, it's fine," or, "I can handle it. Just, I didn't do anything wrong." That's when I realized he wasn't afraid of getting in trouble. He was afraid they might be correct. Nate entered 5 minutes later carrying 2 Red Bulls and a flash drive as if he'd just stolen nuclear secrets. I did something, he announced before I could ask. Technically legal, morally questionable. He spun his laptop around and opened a folder labeled Project Duve, Willow Glen. Inside he timestamps, photographs, reports, 32 families each with a flag, a child, a citation, single parents. And at the top of the list, Jason's profile was tagged 7 of 4 stability monitoring required. Mine read, Jason Stratton, unstable volatility risk, prior combat resistance to mediation, surveillance authorized. The photographs hit me like a punch to the stomach. Jason leaving school, me pacing in the driveway. A still image of Jason in our backyard outlined in red. Jason's fingers gripped the table edge. Sarah said nothing, just leaned closer. Her jaw was locked tight. Jason pointed at the screen. They think I'm not safe here? I didn't respond or move. Then came the real blow. They think I'm not safe because of you. Sarah's eyes darted toward me, sharp, concerned, not accusing but searching. And me? I had no defense because this wasn't about my actions. It was about my identity. This isn't just a surveillance list. This is pre-clearance. These are preparation files. They're constructing cases before removals. How long? Sarah asked. Months. Nate replied. Karen didn't initiate this, but she's actively feeding them information. I stood up. Don't, Sarah said immediately. You're not prepared. I'm not going over there angry. You are angry. And she's counting on me not to act, I said. That ends today. Jason spoke up. I want to come with you. No, I said quickly. You stay here. He didn't argue, but the way his shoulders dropped told me everything. Karen was in her front garden again, always pruning, always smiling. She had a Bluetooth headset in one ear and lemonade in her hand as if recording a podcast for psychopaths. When she saw me, she didn't flinch or blink, just smiled wider. John, she said, did you see the latest newsletter? Pickleball's back. You're flagging my son and surveilling my house, I stated. I don't flag anyone, she replied. That's what the system handles. I just observe patterns. You filed photographs. I submitted evidence, she said. It's my responsibility to report when children may be in unsafe conditions. Her words were sweet, practiced software, but every syllable was a blade. You mean kids with veteran parents, I said. Karen's smile didn't fade. She just sipped her lemonade. You'd be amazed how often that correlation exists. I stepped closer. You think you're protecting the neighborhood, but you're just abusing a system no one monitors. I am monitoring, she said. That's exactly the point. There it was, not a slip or mistake, just a woman who believed oversight meant ownership. She reached into her apron, almost forgot. She held out an envelope with no return address. Just a sticker on the flap, Safe Start Family Oversight Division. Came to my house by mistake, she said. Figured you'd want it. I didn't take it immediately. She leaned in slightly. Take a break, John. You're spiraling, and Jason doesn't need chaos in his environment. That was the strike. She said it with the warmth of a friend, like offering a casserole, but it hit harder than any punch I'd taken overseas. Because I knew now, this wasn't just a Karen on a power trip. This was systematic, intentional, weaponized neighborliness. She turned and returned to her roses as if she hadn't just detonated a bomb in my life. The envelope still dangled between 2 fingers, and I stood there, jaw clenched, every cell in my body screaming not to move, not yet. Because I wasn't just going to fight her. I was going to dismantle the system that allowed her to exist. Jason was missing. His bed was empty, back door slightly open, side gate swinging in the wind. No note, no shoes by the door, no phone. Just a quiet house and the cold slam of realization hitting my chest like a freight train. Then I saw the text on the kitchen counter. His phone unlocked, one line on the screen, meet me. It's urgent. Lex, and in the distance, a muffled yell, not loud or long, just enough to freeze the air around me. I moved quickly. The night was heavy with no moon, 2 flickering street lights, and the kind of quiet that felt manufactured. I crouched low, cutting across hedges, staying in shadows. Then I saw them, black SUV rear doors open, Jason struggling, 2 men dragging him by the arms, one standing guard scanning a tablet, no clipboard, no hesitation. Tactical gear same as before, but this time they weren't asking. I didn't shout, I stalked, closed the distance like a ghost. The lookout turned. I struck one punch to the windpipe. Down, the taller abductor turned. I grabbed, pivoted, slammed him into the SUV. Metal dented, his spine folded. Jason twisted, kicked one in the shin, gave me an opening. I dropped to a knee, hooked his leg, twisted hard. He screamed like a kicked dog. Jason pulled free, scrambling back. 3, and I grabbed the tallest by the collar, pinned him to the car. Who sent you? No answer. I followed his gaze. Tablet on the dash, red blinking dot and warn Secretary asset transfer in progress. I zip-tied his wrist behind him and whispered, try again. This time with details, still nothing. Cowards like him never speak without permission. Sirens in the distance, lights flickering on, neighbors awakening. Karen already standing on her lawn like a director watching a scene unfold exactly as planned. Still filming, still smiling. Police arrived, 2 cruisers and a watch commander. Step away from them, one officer shouted. I complied, arms up, calm voice. The officer looked from me to Jason, then to the zip-tied pile of meat at my feet. One ran to the SUV. 30 seconds later he returned, pale. There's a manifest, he said. GPS routes, labels, Safe Start logo stamped on every page. Jason stared at him, then at me. He said quietly, so they were really gonna do it. He wasn't asking. Karen stepped forward, not scared, not smug, just calm. You always make things worse, John, she said. This could have been a peaceful resolution. I turned slowly. You ordered this. I recommended escalation. They acted independently. Jason's voice cracked. You think this is protecting me? Karen looked at him like a disappointed aunt. Jason, sometimes safety means separation. That's when Jason snapped. You think he's the problem? You don't know what he's done to keep me safe. Karen didn't flinch. She looked at the cops. This is what I meant. Emotional volatility, sudden aggression. One officer shifted. I saw the flicker in his eyes. He was hesitating. Until Jason stepped forward and said loud enough for the crowd, "She sent people to take me." You saw it. Everyone did. That sealed it. The cops detained the men. Karen just turned and said over her shoulder, "You're not well, John." That's what worries me most. We drove home in silence. Jason stared straight ahead, then, softly, "Did you hurt people like that before?" I nodded once. "Worse?" He nodded back, didn't speak the rest of the night. I stayed up watching the front door. Didn't sleep, didn't move. Just read the tablet's hidden folder. Phase 3 Re-Education Protocol. Guardian Stratton, my name, my photo, and a field labeled, time of collection to be determined. This is no longer about saving my son. Now they're coming for me. You ever relive a moment so often it rewires your body? That's what Fallujah did to me. One warehouse, one girl, 1 second too slow. My team used to call me STAT, short for static, because I didn't move unless I had to. Didn't react, didn't flinch. They thought it was cool. They didn't know it was survival. We were clearing an alleged weapons drop. Intel said the building was cold. But when we breached, wrong. 5 targets, 1 fired first, hit our communications guy in the hip. Everything turned red. We moved fast, 2 down in under a minute, 1 retreated north. That's when I heard it. Not a gun, not a man. A scream, soft-pitched, not angry, scared. I turned and found her. 9 years old, maybe less. Hands over her ears, tears on her cheeks. No weapon, no vest. She wasn't part of this. She was caught in it. I don't know if she was a relative, a hostage, a shield. All I know is she looked at me like I was the monster in her closet. And then she ran out the side exit toward our evacuation perimeter. I could have stopped her. My hand twitched. My feet didn't move. Because for one breath, just one, I saw Jason's face. Same eyes, same fear, same way he used to freeze up in a crowded store. And in that moment, I couldn't pull the trigger, couldn't run, couldn't do anything. She ran straight into gunfire. The report said unidentified civilian. The after-action review called it regrettable. No one blamed me. But I did. Because I could have grabbed her, carried her, shielded her. But I didn't. That memory returned last night. Not in a dream, in the kitchen. Jason came downstairs past midnight, silent, pale. Got a glass of water like he was trying not to wake ghosts. He didn't know I was watching from the hallway. Didn't see my grip on the wall because I was shaking. Sarah stepped beside me. Soft voice. "You scared him." I didn't answer. "He's alive." "That's not the same thing." Her voice was calm, too calm. "You think you're protecting him, but he's learning how to disappear inside himself. Just like you do." That one landed hard because it wasn't about discipline. It was about trauma. And suddenly I couldn't breathe. I sat down with Nate's files. Everything he pulled from SafeStart's system. They didn't just have citations and footage, they had me. Therapist records, private VA session logs, a psychological evaluation from 4 years ago I barely remember filling out. And then I saw it. A direct quote from a session. "Some nights I feel more dangerous to myself than to anyone else." They logged it under, flagged for aggression, emotional instability, potential self-harm risk, Guardian evaluation recommended, subject Stratton minor 714A. They used my lowest moment as their justification to remove my son. I stared at the screen at the timestamp. I remembered that night. I hadn't slept in 3 days, hadn't seen Jason in 5, was coming off a medication trial that scrambled my head. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding. And they used that moment like it was a confession. Sarah came down an hour later, found me still staring at the screen. "You okay?" she asked. "No." She sat down next to me. Didn't speak, didn't touch me. Just sat. And that meant more than any words could have. I thought that was it until I heard him. Jason from the hallway. "Quiet. You didn't sleep either." I looked over. He stood in the dark, hands in the sleeves of his hoodie, eyes full of something I didn't know how to name. Shame, love, fear, all of it. I nodded. "No, you don't have to go to war for me." I paused, then said, "It's not just for you." He nodded, walked back upstairs, and I finally stood because I had work to do. They called me dangerous, unstable, unfit. But they forgot something critical. I've spent my whole life controlling the monster inside me. Now I'm gonna let it loose. Jason screamed, not loud, just sharp enough to slice through the house like a razor. Then the sound of a body hitting drywall. I was off the couch in 2 seconds. No shoes, no weapon, just instinct. I hit the hallway at full sprint, just in time to see a man in full black tactical gear dragging Jason by the collar. Jason was kicking, twisting, arms flailing. Not crying, not yelling, fighting. But he was losing. The man barked into a headset. "Arsonist have cured. Guardian status unclear." "Not tonight." I didn't wait. I hit the first one mid-sprint, shoulder to ribs. Took him down hard. Jason rolled away. I landed 2 punches center mass, then elbowed him in the throat. He gasped once, then nothing. Second guy came from the kitchen, knife in hand. I kicked the chair into his legs. He stumbled. I tackled him over the table. Glass shattered, blood on the floor. The house moaned like it was coming apart. He slashed, grazed my arm. I grabbed the coffee pot and smashed it across his face. He crumpled. Sarah screamed upstairs. I heard her running. Then came the third one, big, calm, efficient. He didn't run. He advanced like he was used to finishing fights someone else started. He got 1 punch in, straight to my ribs. Hurt like hell. I countered with a headbutt. We both stumbled. Then I saw it. He had Jason's photo on his chest, rigged, printed, laminated like a hunting tag. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the man by the collar, yanked him forward, and drove him through the wall. Plaster rained down. Sarah screamed again. Jason yelled my name. I didn't stop. 1 punch, 2, 3. Then I caught myself. He was down, breathing barely, and I was still punching. I stood, stared at my fists covered in blood. Sarah ran in, pulled Jason into her arms. He was shaking, eyes locked on me. Not like I was a hero, like I was something he didn't recognize. I grabbed a zip tie, secured the one still breathing, the other two out cold. One twitching, one not. I didn't check pulses. I didn't care. I found the phone clipped to the third guy's belt, unlocked it with his fingerprint. Inside, exfil schedule. Guardian interference likely. With a timestamp 300 a.m. They came for us at the scheduled time. Then came the worst part. Jason looked at me, voice barely audible. You said we were safe. No judgment, just pain and disappointment and fear. I opened my mouth to respond, but I had no answer. Cops arrived 15 minutes later. Not local city, 2 squad cars, 1 cruiser, plain clothes. Professional but twitchy. They saw the bodies, saw the broken furniture, saw the bruises on my knuckles. The taller one stepped forward. Sir, step back from the men. They broke in, I said. Attempted abduction again. He glanced at Jason, then at the blood on the wall. You do this yourself? I didn't blink. Yes. He reached for his cuffs. You're gonna have to come with us. Check the phone, I said, tossing it to him. He caught it, scrolled, stopped, looked up. What is this? Proof? He read aloud. Guardian removal scheduled. Phase 3 active. What the hell does that mean? It means they didn't come to scare me, they came to erase me. Jason stepped forward. It's all true. That made them stop. Really stop. Jason's voice was flat, final. They were taking me. He stopped them. Sarah added, and if he hadn't, you'd be dragging out a body bag right now. That landed. The cops backed off, told me to sit, told me the men would be processed. I knew what that meant, paperwork, spin, delay, but they didn't arrest me, and that was enough. Later I scanned the phone's files again. Found the folder, not justice. Dozens of families, all marked case 3, all with a time and location apparent, and next to our name, status incomplete, Coast Guardian resistance. Then I found the call log, outgoing to a familiar number. I played the audio file. Karen's voice, proceed, keep it clean. He won't fight, he's exhausted. They all crack eventually. I stared at the screen. My hand shook, then I tapped edit, deleted the word, Guardian, from the file name, replaced it with Stratton, father. Still here. Saved. I turned off the lights, locked every door, sat by the window with a cold compress on my hand. Jason came downstairs an hour later. Didn't say anything, just looked at me. And for the first time in days, he didn't flinch. Tomorrow morning I'm walking into the HOA board meeting with the phone, the files, the evidence. And Karen, she won't be hiding behind procedure anymore. Because I'm not coming to ask questions. I'm coming to end her reign. You can fight a man who breaks into your home. You can stop him with your fists. You can make him bleed. But what do you do with the woman who sent him and still shows up smiling at the next OA meeting? That's Karen. She didn't kick my door in. She paid someone else to. And now she was sitting in a folding chair under fluorescent lights like nothing happened. Same pearls, same clipboard, same smirk. But today she wasn't chairing a meeting. She was about to preside over her own collapse. Willow Glen's HOA board meetings were normally sleepy affairs, mostly retirees pretending to care about hedge height. The room always smelled like weak coffee and mild resentment. But today it was packed. Neighbors, journalists, people who hadn't shown up in years. And at the front of the room, 7 board members seated like a suburban Supreme Court. Karen sat center, beige pantsuit, lipstick perfect. Her smile said, "This is under control." Spoiler, it wasn't. Mr. Stratton, she said with a saccharine tone. "We weren't expecting you." I didn't respond. I just walked up to the podium and placed my phone on the mic stand. Then I pressed play. Proceed, keep it clean. He won't fight, he's exhausted. They all crack eventually. Her voice. Her orders. The silence after that clip wasn't awkward. It was surgical. People didn't cough. They didn't whisper. They just looked at her. That's from the body cam of a man who broke into my home. I said, 300 a.m., who zip-tied my son and was authorized by this board's chairwoman to remove me from the premises. Permanently. Karen blinked once, smiled. That recording is clearly taken out of context. Which part? I cut in. Proceed, remove. They all crack eventually. Dennis Withers, the vice chair, tried to step in. Mr. Stratton, we're not here to litigate. Then resign, I said. Because what I'm about to read isn't hearsay, it's data. Your votes, your emails, your signatures, and your funding links to a black badge contractor called SafeStart, a shell company with no published oversight and a very real body count. He shut up. Karen's jaw stayed tight. I dropped a flash drive on the board table like a grenade. Everything you need to verify the existence of Project Duve. Your little family wellness pilot that's really just a legal framework for targeted removals. 33 flagged homes, dozens of kids all under surveillance, all scored for emotional instability risk. This is slander, Karen said. You're not well, John, you never have been. She turned to the audience. This man has a history of violence, of mental strain. There's a reason he's been flagged for intervention. And frankly, maybe it's time someone looked into his capacity. That was her swing, weaponizing the language of wellness. Make me look unstable, unfit, dangerous, so when I fall, people cheer. But the problem was, I brought receipts. I clicked again. Another clip played. Accelerate phase 3. Frame it as neighborhood safety. No one questions anything if you say the word child. Dennis stared down at his desk. Then someone in the audience stood up. Old man, military jacket. My daughter got one of those letters. Said my granddaughter was potentially at risk. She's 6 years old. Karen, you sent that? Karen started to answer, but another voice cut her off. Mrs. Delaney, hold. Fierce pink cardigan of doom. I second his motion. Someone else stood. Third. And just like that it spread. Voices raised, hands went up, phones recorded. Karen stood. Didn't slam anything, didn't yell. She just stood staring at me like I'd undone a decades-long plan with one flash drive. And maybe I had, but before the vote, she fired one last shot. You're not saving your son, John. You're turning him into you. I didn't answer because she wasn't wrong. And that scared me more than anything. The board voted. Karen was suspended. Dennis stepped down 5 minutes later. An emergency audit was ordered. SafeStart's funding was frozen. Police were notified. I walked out into the sunlight with my file in one hand and the whole damn neighborhood watching me. Sarah leaned on the car. Jason was in the back seat, window cracked, hoodie up, watching me like he wasn't sure who I was anymore. When I opened the door, he didn't speak right away. Just studied me, not as a kid, as a witness. Did she fall? I looked at him, smiled, paused. She got pushed. He didn't smile back. He just nodded like he'd expected it. That night my phone rang. Blocked number. I answered. No one spoke at first, just breathing. Then a voice I didn't recognize, low, measured. Pays 4 wasn't hers to approve. Silence. Then, we don't clean up messes. We bury them. Click. Line dead. I stared at the wall, at the photo of Jason from when he was 6, missing teeth, birthday hat, chocolate frosting on his face. The last time I thought I could keep him safe by just loving him. Now that wasn't enough. Karen was a pawn, and I just kicked the board over. But whoever was playing her, they still had the rest of the pieces, and I was done playing. Jason was asleep on the couch, not in his bed, not upstairs. Down here near the door, still wearing his hoodie, shoes on, like he didn't trust the house to stay standing. I sat in the chair across from him. Didn't touch him, didn't speak. Just watched. Every 5 minutes, his hands would twitch like he was still fighting something in his sleep. That's when I knew Karen was never the boss. She was just the bait. The phone call from the night before still rang in my head. Pays 4 wasn't hers to approve. We don't clean up messes. We bury them. They weren't scared of exposure. They were scared of me still breathing. The next morning, I drove 2 towns over to a warehouse Nate had converted into a digital war room. It was low rent, off-grid, and surrounded by busted vending machines and a landscaping company that never opened before noon. Inside, 3 monitors, backup generators, Faraday shielded routers, and a smell like energy drinks and paranoia. Nate was already there, laptop open, hoodie up, eyes locked on code. Your license plate got pinned again, he said without looking up. Twice in Midtown, once near the freeway ramp, traffic cams, law enforcement. Nope, private geoflag systems. They're pulling thermal signatures now. He turned the laptop toward me. Red outlines of me and Jason caught outside our house. Pixelated, zoomed, labeled. They're tracking your heat, man. Not your phone, your car. I nodded. Let's dig. We started with SafeStart, but SafeStart didn't exist. The number routed to a Connecticut law firm with no attorneys listed. That firm shared metadata with a Luxembourg shell company claiming to offer AI-powered civic innovation. That company was owned by a private holding group in Dubai. Their servers were filled with anonymized logs of civilian movements, financial behaviors, and buried deep biometric files labeled Observer Cohort 4C. Inside the folder, United States, photos, heat signatures, psych flags, Jason's sleep patterns, my post-deployment evaluations. They weren't running security, they were running behavioral simulations. How would people like me, military, disciplined, emotionally damaged, respond to slow pressure, to humiliation, to the threat of removal? What would happen when you push just hard enough to spark violence, and then document the fallout? I sat back. Nate leaned forward. Dude, this isn't surveillance, it's a stress test, I said. We traced the funding. Shell nonprofits, community wellness grants, housing trust diversions. Over 2.3 million routed through fronts like American Youth Uplift, the Suburban Equity Foundation, the Harmony Consortium, all fake, all washing money for one entity. Unitas, a privatized risk analytics firm contracted by multiple U.S. federal sub-agencies for foreign predictive modeling. They just decided to bring it home. They weren't looking for criminals. They were looking for future threats. They weren't trying to stop crime. They were testing if they could pre-program guilt. Then we found the kill doc. Encrypted, tough but not impossible. Nate cracked it. One file. Observer 714A. Profile volatility risk, prior military, trauma, emotional stiffness, family unit 1 minor 1 spouse. Mission report resistance level exceeded threshold. Phase 4 authorized. Objective neutralization preferable to intervention. Status pending clean team approval. I read it twice, then said nothing for a full minute. Nate, did they want you gone, man? I didn't blink. They want a body? Sarah called at 5:12 p.m. Her voice was calm, but her words cracked something in me. He's gone? Jason. He left a note. Didn't say where. I found him behind the school in the old batting cage, sitting on the concrete. Up, no backpack, no phone. Just him? I didn't run, he said. I know. I just needed a break from the cameras. From you? I sat beside him. I get it. He looked at me, not mad, not scared, just tired. You taught me how to fight, then told me to run. Which is it? I didn't answer because I didn't know. He looked away. They want you, not me. That's not true. Yeah, it is. They want you out of the way so they can rebuild me. But if I break now, it's not them who did it. He looked at me again, dead in the eye. It'll be you. That hit harder than any fist I've ever taken. Back at Nate's, I told them everything. Jason listened. Sarah held his hand. I didn't lie, I didn't soften it. When I got to